a very exciting show today. And again, welcome to another session of Brian and Jan on this beautiful Sunday evening. Even though it's rain, the rain is good. It helps to cool us off. And we've had a lot of rain lately, but it's been a blessing. I am just so excited to bring to you our special guest today is Mr. Ron McMillan. He has a wealth of knowledge as well in African history and also in the churches. Of course, you know, Brian will be with you as well. I am going to excuse myself in a few minutes, and I will definitely let the men have the show today. So for anyone that is watching, please invite as many people as you can and join us for this awesome dynamic show today featuring Mr. Ron McMillan and none other than my very own Brian Watts.
I hear the crowd screaming.
Woo! Yay!
All right. Well, it is good to be in the house, Brother Ron.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming and being with us today. And of course, we have an interesting show. So let me start by saying, as usual, good evening, Facebook family. Good evening, YouTube family. We are looking forward to our discussion today. If you have any questions, we're asking that you would just put it in the comment section, and we will try to address your questions as best as we can. We have Brother Ron, as Janice have already said, that's with us today. He's going to be sharing some things about himself. We're going to be discussing some things as it relates to him being an artist. So I'm excited about it. So without further ado, I think that a person can best introduce themselves and tell you about themselves. So I'm going to let Brother Ron introduce himself, and then we'll get started with our conversation.
Okay. Well, my name is Ron McMillan. I'm a musician slash artist, and I've been that way since I was about 6, 7 years old. Started just creating rhythms on everything, in everything. I didn't know that that it was really like I was chosen really from Yah to do these things when it comes to African rhythm, because it was the African rhythm that I was playing. It wasn't traditional rhythm that you hear on the radio. So I started writing my own songs since I was a child, and my mom left, like I was saying, at 6, but then, you know, returned and, you know, started just creating songs, still to this day at the top of my head. So, you know, getting in beginning band, 7th grade, it just never stopped. I got in trouble for turning the bathroom into a studio when I was 11, so it's just like fire shut up in your bones. And
So basically, Ron, what instrument specifically do you play?
Well, I'm a drummer by default. I play keyboard, bass. I play everything in the percussion family. So,
okay,
djembe to xylophone to congas, kungas, bongos.
Yeah,
everything in the percussion family.
And I think something interesting about Ron as well, with him being an artist like that and being able to play all of the different percussion type instruments and even some of the string instruments with a bass guitar and your piano, is Brother Ron is legally blind.
Right.
So kind of share with us, Brother Ron, what it's like being an artist that has to work with just your intuition, so to speak, because you haven't had any type of formal training as a artist that's blind, correct?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I remember way back in the day, I think I was in the 10th grade when they were blowing my material up, because I read large print. But by the time I was in the 8th grade, really, I just developed the ear. I always played by ear. So even now, like I said, I'm in Full Sail University now. I'm just now going back to the beginning of reading music, but I never had to. I just had a good ear,
Right.
Ended up working with a lot of professional musicians like Little Milton and Tyrone Davis and Grammy Award-winning Gwen McCrae. I work with a lot of quote-unquote blues artists.
Oh, that's great. So, Bro Ron worked with blues artists. So let's kind of delve into as far as you said one was Little Milton, Tyrone Davis. We know who is a blues icon, so to speak. Yeah. Give us some of the history as it relates to the blues genre of music and how that actually came to be, and your knowledge of that. Okay.
Well, I'm not a fan of blues, but when this is your job, I had to learn that the hard way. This is what you're supposed to do, and it's the foundation to all music, blues and even gospel. But blues would give you that sense of timing and keep it, they say, in the pocket. So it keeps you grounded. So you have to know your foundation, the basis of the music. So and understand 16-bar blues and how to work with other musicians when you playing different genres of music. So it sets it up for learning how to play even African traditional rhythms. So it keeps you at a place where you need to be, just in case things gets off. So you just keep it, right there where you need to be, even with singing or playing the guitar. I play the guitar, but I'm not considered a guitarist yet. So,
so when we look at the blues genre, I like to say that that is an adaptation from the storytelling from the griots of Africa. So when the slaves were brought over to Americas, specifically North Americas, they brought their music with them. And they brought their storytelling with them.
Right.
So one way to keep the history alive and to tell not only about the suffrage, but to tell about the victories and to tell about those things that they would actually encounter and overcome was through the form of music. So the griot brought over, you mentioned the djembe.
Right.
And the djembe actually means the speaking ones. So when we look at the African culture, blues is carved out of that griot storytelling by way of music, by way of song.
I get excited when we talk about Africa.
Being able to pass that on in a way, and I think that is part of the blues legacy. We look at the blues and we can talk about the Bobby Blue Blands, we can talk about the B.B. Kings, the Clarence Carters, especially when you talk about, and all of those guys matriculated from the Southern culture out of Mississippi, Louisiana. So, when we talk about blues, we have to look at those slave ports. That's right, off of the Gulf, where most of those ancestors, a lot of those ancestors were brought into the Louisiana slave ports and the Mississippi slave ports. So they bought those music with, so you see a heavy concentration within those states, even in Alabama, which was one of the main slave ports in the South. So you see a heavy concentration of blues artists from those specific regions, if you will, in the South. So can you talk a little bit more about, I know you performed with Tyrone Davis,
JoJo Benson, and Donnie Ray, Dwayne from Tony.
Okay. So how was it like performing with Tyrone Davis? Did he kind of share with you how he actually got started and what attracted him to?
No, it was strictly business.
It was strictly business. Okay. So you just said, "Hey, give me the check. I'm gone."
It was more of a learning curve with Little Milton. I had more interaction with him.
Give us something on him. What did he?
Well, it's just like when you break the song down. You know, most musicians, they don't understand when you break a song down, even on the drums, everything gets soft. You don't still keep it once you do the flam and break it down. You don't keep it up. You break it all the way down. Everything gets soft. Keep your eyes on him. You make sure of that. Because you never know what could go wrong on a gig, even though you rehearse it. You know,
right?
But something may go wrong. So the thing is just keep your eyes on him.
Keep your eyes on. Yeah.
So
Little Bilton he was more of a what?
For his genre, or
he's blues genre as well.
He's strictly blues. He's not even Southern soul blues. It's just he's the originator, really one of the originators of I think of blues. You got B.B. King, you got Albert King, and you got Little Milton.
Southern blues falls into that category. So I think that's very interesting. So you also play for churches.
Yes.
So can you tell me about your experience as it relates to, because the black church is very significant in not only the history of black people, but music plays an important role when it comes to the freedom songs, when it comes to specifically the civil rights movement, but even when it comes to direction, when our ancestors were seeking a way to move away from the plantation, if you will, to escape the plantation. A lot of times music was used as a secret code to give them directions on where to go, and who to seek out. So the church played a pivotal role in the liberation of our people. Can you talk about music in the church today, how it has evolved into what it is now, and the role that you think music will continue to play as it relates to the church and the liberation of our people?
I'm glad you asked that question. You might not like the answer.
Okay. Well, hey, man, we want to know. We need the knowledge. I mean, you got the experience. We want to, and I'm sure Facebook and YouTube audience will want to know.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's. I'm not gonna say it's all bad. It's good. It's great. The music is really, really, really superb, and it is a business. And sometimes you forget that you are in church, to be honest with you, because I think now even singers get paid in the church. So it's on another level. There's rehearsals, just like outside of, church. Where it should go, I believe musicians are not really protected like they're supposed to be, because there's so many people fighting for positions in the church for its musicians, and a lot of things get done in an uncouth way.
So what? I mean, so give us the insight when you say it's good and it's not, it's not all bad, but it has its spooks, so to speak.
Yeah.
What are you? I mean, what is the bad experience? And I'm hearing you when you say that musicians aren't valued the way they should be valued in a ministry or in church. When you say that, are you speaking in reference to monetary value? They're not paid enough, or are you speaking in reference to what they actually bring to a service, or what exactly are you saying when you make that comment?
It's a little bit of both. Not being paid, correctly. For like the rehearsals, I know for a fact, and I've been doing this for a minute. I haven't got paid for rehearsals. It's just like one fee for everything. And I can say when you do go out to perform in other churches. I hate to use the word performance,
but that's what you're doing.
That's right,
You're an entertainer.
Right. And you get the same that you would in normal service, but the rehearsals, there's no compensation for rehearsals, and this is a true story. I think we were talking about this earlier. Due to the pandemic, sometimes you have to perform outside, and it might rain, right? Mm-hmm. So where's the conversation? Are you gonna see? That's what I don't like.
So let me ask you this: when we talk about the black church today, and we can go into the history of the black church as well, but when we talk about the black church, when a musician enters into a contract with that church, it's stipulated in that contract, this is what your salary entails, right?
Right.
So the musician's job is to really bring in or to usher in the spirit, right?
Right.
So what I'm looking for is, what type of qualities should a musician bring to the table? Because humility is one thing, and then it being a business and playing as a profession and more so of a business and not as a calling, if you will. How do you differentiate that? You understand what I'm saying? So if you don't get paid because you're in the rain, it's a calling, not so much as a business, even though you want to be paid for your gift. You understand what I'm saying? How do you get past that? How do you differentiate that? And looking at the history of the black church, okay? So when we go back to, I have to go back to the Richard Allens of the world, who is the father of the AME church. I have to go back to the Vessies of the world, the Denmark Vesey, which was also a revolutionary. He was also part of the first church that was started, black church, in South Carolina. So when I look at, and I can go on and on, when you look at Bishop Wilson back in the early 1700s, prior to the 1800 church awakening, those men, the church was established based on a liberation hall. So the early churches were really not called churches. That's why you see most of the early churches in the 1700s and the 1800s, so you're talking about the 18th and 19th, early 19th century, all carried the name of African. You had the African Baptist Church. You had African Methodist Episcopal Church. You see what I'm saying? You had the African Hebrew Church. All of them had that to designate their cultural heritage and to designate that this is a place of us reestablishing, recovering our history, our heritage, and now fighting for liberation. And the songs that they sang, Brother Ron, and the music that was in those churches reflected our story and reflected a message of liberation that was an inspired message. So we get the word inspiration from the inspired message of liberation.
I'm still fighting for liberation.
Yeah. I understand, and that's what I'm asking. Is the church a place where the musician should solely focus on just the financial aspect, or should that musician bring something more to the game?
I understand.
Yes.
Some do, especially if you're already a member, and then they have an obligation to the church. But for the most part, at the end of the day, and then too, there's, which I think mostly keyboard players maybe, they might, or they arrange the music and work with the director. So it's more than one job that they do. So if you got a bass guitar player, a drummer, that may be verbal, maybe a verbal contract. So I don't know. It depends on the church, and that's how you get taken and get questioned. Are you doing this? They can use this. Churches have done this. Are you doing this for God? Are you doing this? That means you could pay me when you feel like it.
Oh,
and use
okay.
that against.
I see what. So what you're saying is that the verbal or contractual agreement,
Right.
That's done most of the time when it comes to a musician in the church may not necessarily reflect the work that's done by the musician.
Right, and your heart could be in it spiritually as well. But when you put yourself out there like that, and it's sad because there's no one representing the musician because the church is together, and it's like a separate, and it seems like they always win. Because what do? You get mad or whatever, you can just go to another church and the cycle continues. So.
But is that not a vicious cycle? Is that not a cycle that adds more confusion and disruption
Yes.
to a, if you're in a church and you keep moving from one church to another church, and then also, does that not create a reputation concerning the musician that is not of good rapport in the community, in the church community?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I wouldn't say I'm going through that now, but I understand what you're saying. But what do you do? Because I got a lot of musician friends that doing that just bounce around from church to church because nothing gets solved in the church. Because like I said, it's a family thing too. So and it's always thick competition. Somebody always think they're more talented than the other person. So and sad to say, you get more respect if you go to a white church and they seem to treat you a little bit more better. And that's another.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah. I mean, another show.
But I think it's an interesting point.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, that's why I start off saying the black church played a significant role in every facet of fighting for the liberation of our people.
Right.
If there are two institutions that black people have to point to that are significant when it comes to where we are today. One is the black church, and the other is the black institutions known as HBCUs. Okay. But say what we will about those institutions, they played a major role in the advancement of colored people.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. You understand what I'm saying? So regardless of all of the other things that have happened over the years that have possibly contaminated those two institutions are landmarks in our community.
I agree.
And I think we have to. It's sad to me when a musician says that they can go to a white church and be treated better than playing with their own community, playing in a black church.
Yeah,
there's something wrong with that. And so explain to me when you say that, why do you say that? Apart from, then let's take the money out of the equation. What is it in the church that makes you feel that black churches do not treat or respect or value your service and your gift more than a white church?
And then outside of it is the same thing, but it's like
outside of the church too.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
All
right.
Yeah.
So talk about that for me. Family, if you all have any questions,
it's how you being treated.
Right.
Have a conversation. If things go wrong with business, you could take me out to dinner. It doesn't matter. Sometimes it's not about just the money. It's how you treat me. It's like I said, it's like somebody, you would never know it until something go wrong in business. Like well, Ray plays drums too, or the bass guitar, and you can just get him and I'm out the door. No conversation, no nothing, you know. But when you go to on the other side, anything I can do for you, tie your shoe, here's coffee, here's something, you know, because I've been in a lot of situations where I have never had to pay for anything, playing, say like pop music or what have you, in a white establishment. It's not only you get paid on time or what have you, it's how they treat you. And I know it's sad to say, I know it's not like that with everybody, but it's like, here's what are you guys eating? What are you guys drinking or what have you? You know, things you're accommodated, you know. I think that's what the church is missing, or us as a people, how we treat and how we talk to them.
So would you say that is because that's not isolated to the church. Right. That points to, I think, what Sister Joy DeGruy talks about as the post-traumatic slave syndrome.
Oh yeah.
That points to a bigger problem. See now, so let me help you understand the dynamic of what you're dealing with in that facet. So when you have black people that have been oppressed for over 400 years and have been purposely conditioned to go against their own people and purposely to treat their oppressor better than they treat themselves, then in the development of that, mentally, socially,
I see, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
What's in their nature is to treat you like a second-class citizen.
Like that's the norm.
That is the norm for them. Because that's what they've been conditioned to see each other as. You understand?
Yeah, I always say we've been cut by the same knife of slavery, but the scar is different.
Right. And not only that, I think we have to realize that as we deal with each other, if you do not look at the psychological scarring, if you do, because psychological slavery is 10 times as worse as physical slavery. Mental slavery is worse. That's why Brother Bob Marley, we talk about a musician, he said, you got to free your mind from mental slavery.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Only and I love Bob Marley. So we have to realize what we're dealing with when you talk about each other in the church and why your brother may not communicate with you. So what I'm saying is the treatment of your oppressor concerning being orderly is simply the byproduct of them being the creators of the system. You understand?
Right.
And it is a system that has oppressed you and a system that you have not quite fully learned how to operate in, nor exist in. So with that, we rebuttal each other. With that, we've been taught to see each other with an eye of scrutiny.
Yes.
Automatically.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? So now the oppressed becomes the oppressor to his own brethren and to his own people. That is by design. So I'm careful when black people treat black people a certain way. I'm careful not to judge that because I understand.
Yeah, right. When I came into a conscious about probably almost a little under 30 years, I kind of handle us a little, if I could use that word, just a little bit more cushion instead of prejudging.
Right.
Or rushing to judgment.
And I think there's a way to correct our brothers and sisters. If you are in a verbal agreement in a church, and listen, hypocrisy is at every church.
Right.
Because every every situation. You're dealing with human beings. You're dealing with the nature of human beings. So whenever you're doing that, you have to consider that facet of, the problem that's on the table. You understand? So speak to that and speak to, how do you help your brother? How do you correct your brother? You know what I'm saying?
I used to have I used to clinch and please don't want, all right, when it comes to black women in customer service. This is before I got conscious, so, but so now I'm like, since I know who I am.
Right.
And I'm like, this is what I do this purposely, but it's just it flows naturally now. Like, how you doing, my queen? Good morning, my queen. Things like that. So whatever day she's having before I got on this call, it kind of
it de-escalates. Yeah. But and so when you go out and you're dealing with your own people as it relates to them valuing you as a gift in the ministry, and when you go out and you're treated better by your counterpart,
yes,
that's why so my whole thing is, from that point, you cannot allow from a mental state of being, you cannot allow that to influence the way that you think about your brother or sister, or what they did or what they didn't do, right?
Right.
So what I'm saying is, one of the wise things probably would be for you to do would be to go back to that pastor, brother, sister, even if you don't make progress. If nothing else, you inform them.
Right.
You give them the information that this is how we should be dealing with each other.
Right.
My brother or my sister or whoever's in charge of that music department, or, you don't just throw me away because I disagree with you.
Right.
How do we work through this together to make the ministry and to make what I'm doing an effective tool in our liberation? So everything has to be centered. When the church gets away from its main purpose, and that is teaching each other how to operate as humanity, when there's no consensus on that, and they can treat you any kind of way without any type of correction as it relates to how do we deal with each other from a standpoint of humanity. Because the African spiritual, I always resort back to the origin of all things, and the origin of all things as it relates to spiritual systems, be it African or European, points back to the African continent. So every spiritual system that we see today comes out of the systems of Africa.
Because we knew how to deal with our problems.
There was a consensus where our spirituality was interwoven into the culture. We did not separate that from who we were.
Right.
So what religion does, Brother Ron, in context of what you're experiencing, it separates, spirituality from the culture. I tell people, you could be religious and not spiritual at all. You understand what I'm saying? So what you're dealing with, so you have to deal with that from a standpoint of, how do I coincide? How do I coexist? How do I collaborate with my leader in a spiritual, you understand what I'm saying?
I understand
exactly. That in a spiritual way, even though they may not be spiritual.
That goes back to try the spirit, by the spirit, but it's still, I kind of disagree with that.
Yeah, it really try the spirit by the spirit. So, and I know we're going down this road, but when you talk about that, you have to look at the context of the phrase.
Right.
Okay. So you're talking about trying the spirit of a human by the spirit of a human. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, be careful not to embrace those slogans.
That's exactly right. Because you still, at some form, you're going to have some type of confrontation.
Right. Yeah.
So we have taken that out of context,
right.
the nature of what it was written.
Right.
So when you go back to African traditional spirituality, what I said with us having spirituality interwoven into our culture, how we treated each other was based on a code of ethics and etiquette.
Yeah.
So we did not have to try to be nice or kind or love one another. Those things,
it was already in
it was in us, but we practice it.
Yeah.
By way of culture. So let me give you an example when I say that. In our culture, children starting at the age of 12, be it male or female, has to learn how to serve their elders. Okay? That was automatic. They had to learn how to do service unto the elder. They had to make sure that they saw after the needs of the elder. They understood that their role was to be obedient in order to receive wisdom from the elder so that they could carry on the traditions, not only of the tribal family, but the traditions of their family.
Right.
Okay, so we did not have, that was automatically ingrained, enculturated into us. So we started walking with that.
That doesn't mean go get the ashtray.
No, we didn't.
Not that.
No. Service, and let me give, and I'm glad you brought that up. Service is learning how to be still and to listen.
Right.
In the presence of an elder. Okay? And if the elder needed serving, anything that the elder needed, as it relates, whether it was food, whether it was his scrolls, the children were there in obedience. They did not have to be told to go get it.
Right.
You understand? So there's a difference from what we have been westernized. See, our children have been westernized.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? We command our children like the oppressor commanded us.
Obedience.
See, when it's an enculturated thing, then the children automatically, what is taught to them from the time that they could speak a word is obedient servitude on how to be of service to their community. It is not something that you have to beat into them, browbeat into them, or you wait too late until they're 15 or 16 to start telling them what they need to do and don't do. No. Yeah. This started at the time that we came pretty much out of the womb. We were enculturated into a system of etiquette and ethics. So now when a child is 12, these things are easy. Guess what? They have an automatic tuition. If the elder doesn't have his scrolls, they automatically going to bring them to him. If the elder doesn't have his water, they automatically going to bring. Elder never have to tell them what to go get. Right. Because they've learned that from the time that they could walk.
Right.
So there's no go get this, go get that. You understand? It's a whole different mentality. So what we have gotten away from, Brother Ron, and what you see in the church, see, I tell people you can have a lot of information, even with your church situation. You can have a lot of information. You can say that you're conscious, but yet still be very religious and very hypocritical in what you say you are. You understand what I'm saying? Right. Consciousness doesn't that now everybody's woke. The whole concept of the woke society has matriculated into part of the diversity movement, has matriculated into part of the LGBTQ community, has matriculated into all types of different little sects. You understand what I'm saying? So being woke doesn't mean that you're spiritual. It doesn't mean that you're really conscious.
What level
you understand what I'm saying? Yeah. Being woke means now that you're going along with the normal fad. That's what that is. Yeah. So it doesn't mean that you're putting in time to try to get back to cultural and communal type of action within yourself, within your family, creating that within your family, creating that culture within your church. And I think that's, and correct me if I'm wrong, but that's where churches have strayed away from the initial purpose of why it was created, the black church. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And musicians have matriculated away from their original purpose as it relates to the inspiration through song and message, creating a whole different dynamic of worship and servitude. See, musicians now have become more entertainers than worship leaders, right? Have become more of, this is a business, I need to get paid, than it is, where's my heart and how do I serve in my gifts. Based on that, in my humility, I'm rewarded. Somebody, you understand what I'm saying? So how did you balance, what would you say? How do you balance that?
It's a tug of war because because ministers get compensated, and so I guess they look at that as well. But you're right, when you have a lost culture, you tend to take up the ways of how it was, founded on. We talked about that earlier. So it's the spirit of Africa is in the church, but the cultural part of it and the mannerism is not there. Like you were speaking earlier, is not there. So how do you?
So I would say the spirit of Africa is not in the church. Now, let me explain when I say that.
Yeah.
Okay. Just because you have African descendants sitting in a place doesn't mean that the spirit of the ancestors are there.
Okay.
Because the spirit of the ancestors would spawn you on how to conduct yourselves amongst each other.
Okay. I'm going to tell you why I said.
Okay. So I would say, knowing what our African traditions were and how we approached the great spirit that we call Creator, God, was totally different from now, from what you see now. What we see now is customs being practiced. We see certain traditions just being passed on, but we don't see the spirit of our ancestors residing in those traditions and those customs, because they're simply acts of service. That's it. They're just doing the role of a pastor, of a musician, of an usher. That's what church has become, to the point to where we're not really tapping into what we would deem in the church and what the church calls the holy righteousness of a spirit. You see, you understand? So, yeah, go ahead. What would you want to say on that?
The reason why I said that because the feeling in the music and song and the passion within that.
Okay, I can accept that.
Yeah, that's pretty much it, really. There's nothing else.
I can accept that, and I'll tell you why I can accept that is because in Africa, when you look at spirit, the music of Africa contains spirit by way of Africa. Okay, so when you had in Africa, the drum was actually called the speaking spirit.
You're right.
So we refer to instruments as spirits that would speak through certain vibrational tones.
It's like Indian brothers call it the talking drum.
The talking drum. Yeah. And that is the same. Our Indian brothers that you speak of, and when we say Indian, we're talking about native Indians, not Eastern Indian. There's a difference. So I want to make that distinction. So when you talk about native Indian calling the drum the talking ones just as African, that is because they are African. They made their ways into the Americas 2,000 years prior to Columbus coming over here.
So how did it get separated from?
You understand?
Like these Indians just came out of America and didn't migrate from nowhere.
No, they migrated from Africa.
So, thank you.
See, that's what I'm saying. So they knew that. They had no problem. They knew where they were, who they were. Columbus didn't understand who they were.
Right.
Okay? You understand? But they were not confused about who they were.
I think he was confused.
Nor were they confused about how they got here. They understood the migration patterns. And they came many years. So, you know, I always reference Dr. Ivan Van Sertima's book, They Came Before Columbus. That is an excellent book. The Native Americans in America. That is another excellent book that people can reference to actually see the migrational journey. You understand what I'm saying? But when we look at, just say for instance, the strings. So we're talking about the drums, the speaking ones, but there were certain vibrational tones. Even with the string instruments, there were certain vibrational notes that were spirit. Okay? So we talk about those things. Music is spirit.
Right.
That's what music was.
Yeah.
The vibrational tones had the power to heal. They had the power to drive out evil. All of those things were incorporated in the vibrational tones of Africa.
Even with war, it was a time with certain rhythm.
That certain rhythm, that's exactly right. Even to call the warriors together for battle. So we have to, I think we have to recognize those things. And, you know, like I said, when you look at it from a facet of the church, we have to get back to a place, I think, where the church embraces its original, you know, concept. Why? Especially here in America. Because there's such a vicious cycle now with people moving from one church to another church and not really understanding all of the things that made us who we were as a people. You understand? And that's why I got to go back. I want to say this with Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey he didn't embrace a religious system. What he embraced was a spiritual culture, to where he helped the black man and the black woman to understand, look, you yourself identify as African based on your African gods, based on your African deities. You understand what I'm saying? So it doesn't matter whether you call yourself Christian, Muslim, Jewish, Hebrew, it doesn't matter. You have one common denominator.
That's all we had.
And that is your creators look like you and your deities look like you, and those things, your ancestors look like you, and they are the ones that have made it possible for you to still be here.
It wasn't a system.
That's right. It wasn't a religious system. So that's why Marcus Garvey was so effective in his message, because everybody was welcome. See, he didn't take anything away from those different religious systems. What he did was add the context to it. He made it something that was substantive. He said, look, I don't care what you call Allah, Jesus, whatever. Understand this, that whoever you call looks like you, created you, speak like you, dance like you, play drums like you. You understand what I'm saying? That was the power, I think, of your understanding the liberation of black people when it came to having to deal with some of those different systems that were introduced to us, you know?
So we should go back to our culture.
I think we should. I mean, now, you know, and people, everybody has a difference of opinion. I think what worked best for black people was black people having a spiritual system that was enculturated into their community. So when you talk about that, there's no divisiveness. between denominations when you have a spiritual system within the community that says this is the common denominator between all of us.
Right, exactly, yeah.
You see what I'm saying? It's that we all come from the Creator, that we all identify with a code amongst each other, whether it be the Ma'at code, whether it be the commandments, but we have a code that exists among us that is a spiritual code.
Wow.
You understand what I'm saying? So, and this is very powerful. See, you can have, I'm going to give you 2 commandments. Thou shalt not kill, okay, which means murder.
Right.
It's interpreted murder. Yeah. And thou shalt not steal.
Yeah, right.
Those are 2 commandments that shows you what your oppressor thinks about you, because they murdered us, right, and they stole us.
Right.
Understand this, but yet they still say that they are believers in their system, their religious system. Understand, so you believe a system that says to them that it's okay because we devalued you. You were not human according to this system. So understand what I'm saying.
It also was ordained by Jesus because the slave ship was Jesus.
You had a slave ship named Jesus. Yeah. But more importantly is, see, what they did was, the reason that when you look at history, that was sanctioned was because the Pope made it known that Africans are not human beings.
Right. Yeah.
Okay? Once that edict went out, once that papal bull went out, that it was okay for the Portuguese to enslave Africans because they were less than human. Wow. That spawned what we call the Enlightenment period. It moved from the Enlightenment period to the Great Awakening period, from the Great Awakening period to the Mission period. And every different era saw black people as subhuman. So it was okay to steal and murder those people that were not human. Those commandments only applied to those that were considered to be humanity. Wow. With you being reduced to less than humanity by the same doctrine that you believe, you understand what I'm saying? Yeah. Makes you now what they call in the Bible a Gentile, which is a second-class citizen that have been allowed to participate into a system by way of adoption. You are not first class.
No,
You're still subordinate. You're still second class. So when I look at that, Ron, so when we talk about a spiritual culture, I'm talking about a culture that does away with all of those idioms, all of those classifications, and put you back in the proper place as first a human being, and no less than any other human being. If a religious system just do that, now it balances the playing field to where black people are not marginalized and dehumanized by a religious system that they say they believe in. And see, that was the brilliance, I think, of Dr. Garvey. He didn't buy into that, and he taught proper context. You cannot accept a system that marginalizes you and still devalues you and say that you believe this system over loving one another.
And this is not attacking
no, this is not attacking a belief system. Because we're not attacking a belief.
Right.
All beliefs are still have human, interaction and have human involvement from a standpoint of their writings, all of those things. See, I tell people the Bible was written by men, though it may have been inspired by divine energy and divine spirit. Okay, but it was still written by man.
Right.
So the Quran, all of that. No, we don't attack, because this is not a attack a belief system. No, what we do is point out the frailties of man in the system.
That's right.
That you have to get away from. Yeah. You understand? And we have to again look at our spiritual system and to see whether or not, if it worked 1,000 years ago. See, this is something significant. The Bible says return to the old past. That is very significant because once we recognize and realize that we had a system that was much better for our community. Right. Now, what other people have may be better for their community. Right. And like you said, we don't ostracize or scrutinize any of those. Right. But what we have to do is reevaluate, has this system worked for us?
No.
Okay? That's the question we have to ask. And then when we look at those that created the system, does it work for them? Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay? So that's what I'm saying is we have to get back to a place to where we also can create, if nothing else, we don't have to remake the wheel. Mm-hmm. We have to get back to a place to where we reevaluate. Mm-hmm. What did we really have that caused us to be so, united and cohesive, mm-hmm. and that caused us to work together, not to work against each other. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So the whole cliche, divided we, united we stand, divided we fall, right. is still very true to this day.
Yeah, right. We don't have a village anymore.
Right. And see, even with that, that cliche that was used by, Hillary Clinton to bamboozle us. Mm-hmm. You understand what I'm saying? So the village concept is an old African proverb, okay, that helps us to understand that if a warrior goes off to battle and he is killed in battle and he has a wife and a child that is left behind, if that warrior falls, then everybody in the community takes on the burden of the warrior. Yeah, and they raise the child. Yeah. See, so even that context, it takes a village to raise a child. We got that wrong.
Like Solomon.
You understand what I'm saying? Yeah, yeah. We got it wrong. We quote that not even understanding the proverb. You understand what I'm saying? If the father is there, then you don't need a village. You got the father there, right. And you got the mother there. Right. You understand? You only need a village when the father falls or the mother falls. Right. That's the support system. See, what we've gotten away from is making black men and black women responsible. You understand what I'm saying? Yes, uncle, cousins, aunts were there. Right. If one of those others fall. Right. Also, what we had to realize and what we failed at in the African culture, at the age of 6, the child left the parents and would go stay with the aunt and the uncles. This is part of the West African culture.
It's kind of like how I was.
It's very powerful because what it does is it helps the child to not fall into being spoiled by his parents and learning how to be effective when it comes to functioning in society. So the child from the ages of 6 until he was a teenager spent those years with the aunt and the uncles. So when they came back to mother and father, there was a great appreciation. You understand what I'm saying? So we have, as black people, we have fallen into the snares, I think, of we have been conditioned and fallen into the snares of propaganda. We've fallen into the snares of social media. See, now TikTok is training our children.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? Facebook is training our children. You see, everybody, and that is, instead of our children reading books, they go to TikTok to get information. Something is drastically wrong when you have social media that is only there to continue to further the degradation of black people. Social media for black people, that is why black people are targeted more than any other group. It is there to continue to malign black people and to help in the decreasing of the black population by way of murder, by way of desocializing, making them animals, brutes, all of those things that society says we are, instead of us being intellectuals, instead of us valuing community, valuing each other, loving each other, marrying each other. The total opposite is being filtered through social media to get us away from those things. Why? Because the black population is under the gun. It is a subtle, within the social media structure, a subtle genocide being orchestrated to do away with black people altogether.
Yep.
And when you have TikTok and Facebook become the main source of education, the main source of your interaction with each other, you are dead. And we are the largest consumers.
Yeah, we are.
You understand?
You don't own anything as a nation.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So what we have to do as black people, we have to recondition ourselves.
Reboot the computer.
You understand? Really do. And relearn how to value things that are meaningful in our community.
So pretty much everything we was taught, you have to throw it away. You really go reboot the computer, get new software or whatever.
Well, let's just look at 30 years ago, prior to you having all of these social media outlets. Okay, 30 years ago, we were better off.
Yeah.
Mentally.
Yeah.
See, and I'm looking at mentally. Once you get the mind of an individual, the body will do anything you want it to do.
Yeah.
Okay, so the part of the computer programming of black people is done by way of Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, all of these media outlets, okay, that keep us at war with one another, that train our young girls how to further, promote sexuality amongst them, our young men to be nothing but sex. You understand what I'm saying? Sex craze. Idiots making babies, don't know how to take care of them, not creating men in our community. You understand what I'm saying? Nobody that will stand up and actually fight for our women. We don't have that, and there's very few now black men. And I'm not talking about just being able to tote a gun, because a man, just because you can tote a gun doesn't mean you're a man.
No.
Okay, we have young black men gunning each other down every day. So that tells you right there that a gun doesn't make you a protector. No. A protector is someone that understands how to value family, protect family as it relates to creating business, bringing in wealth, creating a heritage for the kids, being able to condition your children to be functional in society, to be intellectuals, not to want to go into entertainment, into sports, into music, rapping. That is a bunch of hogwash. And yet we have bought into that system, Brother Ron. We bought into the system where entertainers have become our heroes. No entertainer should be a leading authority on politics. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, right.
No entertainer, no rapper should have anything to say as it relates to being the leading authority on politics when they don't even have a 9th grade education. But we have bought into those things, and I wonder, with our children and with black people in general, what is our course of action at this time? You understand what I'm saying? Where do we go from here as black people that have bought into the social media craze, that have bought into the entertainment craze, above education, above creating intellectual children, above creating a dynamic where black families value each other, where black men value our women, and where black women value black men, and stop marrying and taking partners outside of themselves. You understand what I'm saying? And that stop participating in all of these lewd. If you want to, whatever you want to do in your bedroom, that's you. But the promotion of the lewd sexuality amongst our people to stop black men from procreating with black women and to stop black women from procreating with black men, that is all socially being conditioned and engineered to cut the black race off. So the more you see immigrants come in from other persuasions, and the more you see lewd sexuality, social media pushed onto the black family, it takes us out of the equation as it relates to being functional in society. Okay? There is, the many writers on this dynamic that we're dealing with, and what America has created as it relates to the black person now. But see, the white power structure still sees black people as non-productive and a burden and a weight on society. We are not an asset. We are a liability. Therefore, we are disposable. That's why the United States government didn't go down to Katrina when all those black people were dying in New Orleans. You understand? So that's why even today, they're not concerned about intervening in the gang killings in Chicago.
Because it's us. It's us.
We are a liability and a burden to society. The power structure in place sees us as that. And until we make a conscious decision, see, all of those woke people that claim they're woke, that are on social media, buying into the social media propaganda, buying into the different things that are being pushed on black people, black families, you're not really woke. You understand what I'm saying? You are falling into the fad of being subconsciously prostituted. That is what and so if you really woke, you would be able to see that the black community is at war. And there the government is committing subtle genocide on black people.
With the vaccines too.
Well, we won't even talk about that. But all of those things, man, we have got to wake up to those things.
Exactly.
And the black church is part of the black experience. It has to wake up to those things. And until you have pastors that get bold enough to come out and start teaching those things, stop getting up there hooping, hollering, yelling on Sunday mornings and trying to make people feel good. And then black people go back to the same living hell that they came out of prior to the Sunday morning service. Those days need to be far behind us.
Oh, yeah.
Because we are on the verge of losing the last vestiges of what we know as black people and descendants of our ancestors who were great. See, we talk about now our ancestors built this country. We go through all of these things without a conscience. Because if we really thought that was really important and valuable, we would be trying to preserve it and trying to duplicate it. Their greatness, their resilience. We're not trying to do that. We've given into the system. It's easier for me to do what TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. It's easier for me to look at my brothers and sisters going at each other. It's easier for me to accept that she's a B or a W and he's a N or a dog. And we call each other all of these, names. We label each other without any conscious awareness that we're tearing down and we're putting each other in the same category as our oppressor. How our oppressors see us, So, I don't know. I took over this show, bro.
Jesus gonna forgive you.
Family, I'm sorry. I got off on a pontificating there, bro. Like I said, and I thank, Brother Joe Brown coined this. He said, black men, when they come together to talk about the problems that we face in our community, they do not rant, they pontificate. And they make serious statements, and they seek analytical ways to find resolutions. And we have to do something. There has to be a heavy promotion now within black culture to get back to, like you said, deprogramming our minds.
Oh yeah, got to.
And then reprogramming our minds to be functional as it relates to our community. What made us who we were? See, it's not how the white man sees me anymore. It's how I see me. You understand what I'm saying? And sometimes we see each other in a more negative light than our oppressor do.
Wow. Yeah.
Just like I was telling you with how you viewed the white person treating you as opposed to a brother that was treating you.
You're stunned for a minute, you know?
Absolutely. It's almost a state of shock.
Yeah.
But see, when we don't understand true spirit, when we don't understand that we are the human expression of God divine, creator of all things, when we don't understand that, then we do each other any kind of way. Right. And see, when we buy into the concepts that the enemies, and that this is something that Brother Malcolm and them talked about, that the enemy ice water is colder than ours, then there is a problem. See, the ice is still formed out of the same H2O formula. It's no different. So we have to get back to basic fundamentals of respect, teaching each other. These things need to be dealt with in our religious institutions, as well as our HBCUs, in any institution, in our Masonic halls, in our Eastern Star, halls and temples, and all. See, we have to get back to, if nothing else, understanding that if we do not preserve what it is that we have as a culture, then in 10, 15 years, we will have no culture.
I was about to.
We will be absorbed into the diversity, color blind type of society that places no value on black people. Black people will be obsolete. And if you are not part of the brown community, the yellow community, the white community, you are not important.
Yes.
See, so we have to understand that there's an emphasis of understanding that black people, there's an emphasis to why white people do not want to see you advance in this society. There's an emphasis on that. We need to make them, and we need to create a dynamic where we no longer have to deal with them.
Right.
Where we can weed them out of society. They are a financial burden. We need to understand how to do away with them.
Right.
See, and I say this, the government and filmmakers give you secrets all the time. The Purge is a secret as relates to how to deal with the unwanted of society. The whole depopulation process started in 1974. Now, I'm going to go into the history on this next week, so I won't get too deep into it tonight. But the depopulation process is mainly targeted and has always been targeted at African people, African nations. See? Because still, when you add up the colored, pigmented people in the world, the African genotype is the largest group in the world. Still. With all of the millions that we lost in slavery, lost in the African slave trade, lost in the Arab slave trade, lost in I call it one separate movement, the church slave trade. You understand what I'm saying? And all of those different atrocities and Holocaust that we experienced, I'm talking about hundreds of millions.
Yeah.
We are still here.
Yeah.
You understand?
Right.
So the depopulation program that has been set in place by the government has always targeted one group of people more than the other, and that has been black people. And until we recognize that and start to deal with that part of our community and to consciously be aware that this is targeted at my children and my grandchildren. See, for me, it's not about Brian anymore. This is about the survival of my children and my grandchildren. And this is about making sure that they have a chance to continue the legacy of being black.
Right.
Come on.
Unapologetic.
Yes. Because, see, in 5 years, there is not going to be a box that says African American. You understand what I'm saying? There will be a culturally assimilated box.
Oh, wow.
Or a racial assimilated box, you see. So we have to realize that. I think we have to start pushing each other towards rectifying some of the issues that are in our community that are being purposely and intentionally put there by our oppressor.
Right.
Okay. All right, Brother Ron, I think we better end it. You got any last words? Tell us where you can be located. Tell us about your...
You can check me out on my website, doubleoaction.info. That's DOUBLEOaction.info, and True Vision Radio, TREWVIZON, TREWVIZON.
All right. Well, thank you, Brother Ron. We appreciate you coming tonight and being with us. And like I said, I know I got on a pontificate.
It's okay.
Okay, what else you wanted to say? Anything else?
Pretty much it. I always forget the Cash App. Cash App, $ True Bucks, TREWBUCKS.
Yes.
For any additional information, it's on the website. So thank you so much.
Check out Brother Ron's website. He is definitely a gift to the community. He's like a son.
I try to put the medicine in the dog food. So some of my stuff, like things you should never do, it's a little bit risky.
Yeah, and a fantastic drummer. He has a band. They played for us at a Christmas party that we actually had.
Right.
And so I want to encourage you all to support him. Go to his website. Go to True Vision Radio on YouTube. Check out some of the interviews that he had. Yeah. Very, very powerful. And we're going to get Brother Ron back. I know I kind of, like I said, got on my little thing, soapbox tonight.
Oh, and I also have after the George Floyd, in 5 minutes, I recorded and wrote a record called Warring with the Beast. So looking to shoot a video for it. Sister
Awesome.
Already donated.
Okay.
Yeah.
Warren, you wrote a song after George. Okay. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, let's support that. Yeah. When will it be? How can they get it?
I don't have a date yet. The record is already done.
Okay.
We have to get together on the video storyboard, plan out the...
Is it on Spotify or...
Not at the moment, because I'm very protective of music, so I got to make sure...
that everything's in place.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Exactly.
So we're looking forward to that, Bro Ron. You have to come back and actually share that with us as well.
I want everybody to come and bring their afros and...
Yes. Awesome. Well, Janice, come on, sweetie, and close us out. We're going to get out of here. Again, we thank Brother Ron and, his information and insight, and we're going to have him back. So, peace, family.
Yeah.
I'm out of here. I done talked about tonight.
You didn't close it out, baby.
Oh,
Thank you guys again for joining us tonight. We really appreciate it, and looking forward to seeing you next week. So be blessed. Have a blessed week. Thank you.
Stay black.
Bye-bye.